So it doesn't matter what it clicks and
but
scrolls
it wasn't.
to.
But they didn't do it on purpose.
This is an unforced
Chris,
error.
which is the issue. It is an unforced error, but that's very different than being vindictive about it and doing it on purpose. It is an unforced error.
Well,
it's very
give me a
different
good
than
reason.
Purposely clipping it to show that.
Well, first of all, it was absolutely purposely clipped to show the Obama part. It was just part of a much bigger video. That's not the beginning. Well, it's not the beginning of the video.
It was an automatic scroll.
It's not the first thing you would see.
It was an automatic, right, because it's the end of the video, which automatically scrolled into the next video. That's what happened.
Oh, no, I know. I understand how buffering and queuing works. What I'm saying is somebody made a choice.
In today's video, Chris Cuomo destroys Katie Pavlich on NewsNation as they clash over Donald Trump, the Obama video controversy, and accusations of racism. As Katie Pavlich defends the administration, Chris Cuomo calls out the inconsistencies. So let's dive in and watch how Chris Cuomo shuts down Katie Pavlich on NewsNation.
It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mistake. And I don't care that there are a lot of Democrats in the extended video. You use a quick clip of Obama and his wife as monkeys, you know what message it sends, and you know it is wrong. And whoever was a part of it should be exposed and disposed of. Of course, the president doesn't take the blame. Of course, they took it down. The message was sent and received. And of course, his mouthpiece tries to put the blame on the rest of us. This is from an internet meme video depicting President Trump as the king of the jungle and Democrats as characters from The Lion King. Please stop the fake outrage. Fake outrage? Tell that to Senator Tim Scott. He posted this was the most racist thing he's ever seen out of the White House. Interesting choice of words. Most racist, as opposed to the only racist thing he's ever seen out of the White House. Scott apparently called the president, asked him to remove the video, and then Trump deleted it. Because if you don't want people to accuse you of being racist, guess what? Don't do things like this. Let's discuss the state of play. Host of Katie Pavlich tonight, Katie herself. Good to have you. Happy Friday.
Hi, Chris. Thank you for having me. Good to see you. Happy Friday.
What does this mean? Not so much the monkey business. What does this intense messaging that the elections were rigged mean about the disposition towards the midterms for the administration?
Well, first, I think it's really important to point out that the outrage over the depiction at the end of a scroll video, which then automatically went to another video, was not vindictive in nature. Was it a mistake? Yes. Did it cause a problem for the White House all day today? Yes. Is the president upset about it? And there's new reporting out tonight that there are a number of White House staffers who are upset that this occurred because of the narrative all day was not on the fact that last night President Trump announced Trump RX, which means that medication prices are going to go down for Americans because Europeans now are going to pay their fair share when it comes to investment in drugs and the ROD that comes into the research of those drugs. We're not going to be subsidizing Europeans anymore for our medication. They're not talking about the Dow that hit an all-time high today. They had that press conference from the Department of Justice about Benghazi, exactly, where they brought justice after 14 years for 4 Americans who were killed in that attack. And so, yes, it was not handled the best way. They should have immediately investigated it and realized that it was an automatic scroll into a video, which, as you did play, depicted a number of people and animals. Is it silly? Yes. But was it vindictive, and does it classify the president of the United States as a racist? No. And I think if you look at his policies, people in his cabinet, the people who have visited the White House, including Nicki Minaj recently, to call him a racist or to imply that he is one based on that video is very disingenuous and lacking context.
Well, too bad. Because let me tell you something. If you don't want somebody to call you that, then you don't do things like this. He didn't show Biden and everybody else. They just showed the Obama part. So it doesn't matter what it clicks and scrolls to.
But they didn't do it on purpose,
This is an unforced
Chris,
error.
Which is the issue. It is an unforced error, but that's very different than being vindictive about it and doing it on purpose. It is an unforced error.
Well,
it's very
give me a
different
good
than
reason.
purposely clipping it to show that.
Well, first of all, it was absolutely purposely clipped to show the Obama part. It was just part of a much bigger video. That's not the beginning. Well, it's not the beginning of the video.
It was an automatic scroll.
It's not the first thing you would see.
It was an automatic, right, because it's the end of the video, which automatically scrolled into the next video. That's what happened.
Oh, no, I know. I understand how buffering and queuing works. What I'm saying is somebody made a choice.
The biggest issue here isn't whether the video was intentional or accidental. It's understanding why so many people reacted so strongly. Comparing black public figures to monkeys has a long and ugly history rooted in racist propaganda. So even if someone claims it was a mistake, it's easy to see why the backlash was immediate. Public officials and political campaigns should know that context matters just as much as intent. Another problem is that these kinds of controversies end up distracting from issues voters consistently rank as more important. Poll after poll shows that Americans are focused on healthcare costs, housing, groceries, and inflation. Instead of talking about solutions to those everyday concerns, the conversation shifts to damage control over social media posts that could have been avoided with better oversight. It's also worth remembering that political messaging shapes public trust. When controversial content appears from official accounts, people naturally question the judgment of those running them. Saying it was an accident may explain how it happened, but it doesn't erase the responsibility to prevent it in the first place. Large organizations routinely review public communications because one careless post can overshadow an entire policy agenda. History also shows that symbolism matters in politics. Leaders are judged not only by legislation but by the messages they amplify and the standards they set. That's why criticism in situations like this isn't simply about one clip. It's about accountability and the expectations placed on those in positions of power. When avoidable mistakes repeatedly dominate headlines, they make it harder for voters to focus on the economic and policy achievements politicians want to highlight, ultimately hurting public confidence more than helping it.
Vindictive portrayal of the Obamas.
You call it what you want.
And what happens...
Let me tell you something. If I do something like that, if I did that, first of all, I'd probably get fired. But if I did that, guess what people would call me? A bigot. You know why? That's a bigoted thing to put out. That's why. And we both know it.
I agree, Chris. I agree with you that if they purposely only clipped this portion on purpose, it would be bigoted. It would be disgusting. But they didn't purposely clip this portion on purpose. It was part of another video that got scrolled into automatically after they were portraying the other video, which is the one they were clipping for the feed. They didn't watch it all the way to the end. So there's a difference between vindictively clipping a video to show the Obamas this way, which is not what happened. It was an automatic scroll to a video which depicts a whole bunch of other politicians in these ridiculous animal costumes. Is that silly politics? Yes, but to argue it was done because President Trump is a racist and to portray the Obamas this way purposely,
I'm not arguing that he is a racist. I'm not saying he's a racist. Listen, Katie, words matter. Context matters, as you say. You want the defense of it, use it as a sword and a shield. So if you do something like this, this is a racist thing to do. It doesn't mean you're a racist necessarily, but what you did invites the racism, okay? And what's more important is, you know what I do if I did this by mistake? You know what you do if you did this by mistake? You say, I'm sorry. That's what you say, because you are mortified. You are mortified. Not him. Not him. I did nothing wrong. I have nothing to apologize for. I don't care if you're offended. And then Katie, and then Levitt comes out there, bloodlessly and says, oh, this is all on you, fake outrage. Senator Tim Scott didn't think that. Is he a dope?
Well, Chris, the best thing for them to do was to say, this was a mistake. This was not done on purpose. Here's the full video that was scrolled into the previous video that was being posted by a staffer on the president's Truth Social account. That's not what they did. And then it caused a problem for them all day long. But again, I'm very glad you just showed the full context of the video, which portrays a number of politicians in animal costumes. So not sure how you can make the case that it was only racist against two people portrayed in the video and not the rest of them portrayed in the video.
Okay, if you want it to be disgusting and prejudicial towards everybody, I'll concede the point. Let me ask you something else.
It's racist against Trump to say he's a lion costume? I mean, this doesn't make any sense.
No, but your rationale, your analogy makes no sense. Again, this is a very simple fact.
Your analogy makes no sense.
You took...
So you're calling me a racist. You're saying it's a racist fact pattern? Where's the fact pattern?
Look, Katie, I know you need that. Katie, I know you need that to give you some kind of high ground that this is being taken too far, but this is on you. He doesn't apologize. He doesn't contextualize it. He doesn't say anything is wrong that he ever does, and then you're surprised that people come at him and to say that it's overreaction? It's nonsense.
This really comes down to accountability, not just intent. Even if the clip appeared because of an automatic scroll, once it was noticed, the response mattered just as much as the original mistake. Public officials and their teams know that images involving long-standing racial stereotypes carry enormous weight, especially when they involve America's first black president and first lady. Dismissing those concerns instead of acknowledging why people were offended only deepens the controversy. History also matters here. The monkey stereotype directed at black people has been used for generations to dehumanize and justify discrimination. Because of that history, political figures should be especially careful about anything that could reinforce those images, even unintentionally. A quick apology and clear acknowledgement of the mistake would likely have ended much of the backlash instead of allowing the story to dominate the news cycle. The political consequences were also predictable. Rather than keeping attention on policy announcements or economic messaging, the administration found itself defending a communications controversy that overshadowed everything else. That's a self-inflicted distraction at a time when many Americans are far more concerned about healthcare costs, housing, groceries, and inflation than online political fights. Ultimately, leadership isn't judged only by whether a mistake was intentional. It's judged by how leaders respond after it happens. Voters generally respect accountability more than defensiveness because admitting an error builds credibility instead of eroding it. When controversial content is followed by excuses rather than responsibility, it shifts the conversation away from governing and toward unnecessary political conflict. That's why this debate resonated with so many people. It wasn't just about one video, but about whether leaders are willing to acknowledge mistakes and move forward responsibly.
It's
no,
political malpractice in the main.
I'm actually not surprised at all.
It's mean-spirited, it's dark, and it's ugly, and everybody knows it. Let's move on.
I'm not surprised at all that this happened today. I said that. I said they should have done it better from the beginning. I'm not surprised there was outrage.
Well, they left it up for 12 hours.
It wasn't done vindictively.
Look, Katie, all I'm saying is you can say that. I don't know that. If you know how it happened, okay, great. But all I'm saying is this. When you're explaining you're losing in politics, and there were a lot of other things they could be talking about.
I agree.
The specific one is health care is not a cudgel. You know how sometimes we come up with issues that you're just not good on, so I keep hitting you with it. But it's not really the most important issue in the world. This is, and it's gaining momentum, and the president said something that I thought at the time, ooh, that could be good. He said, I'm going to call in all these cats, and I'm going to bring them in, and I'm going to sit them down, and I'm going to say, this is going to happen, with or without you. How do you want it? That's a great idea. Where is it?
Well, President Trump has done this with a number of the drug companies, which is why you're seeing, as I talked about from the beginning, and something I wish they could have focused on more today because they announced it last night and then it got blown up by this situation today, which they could have handled much better. They've done this with their drug companies by forcing Europeans to pay for their own medication to stop the American taxpayer from subsidizing the research and the health care and the socialist health care that Europeans enjoy under the dime of the American people. They've done this also. They've invited the insurance companies, which the president has accused of making a lot of money since Obamacare was
Too
passed.
much, he said.
And fleecing the Americans who are paying their premiums every month and then not getting any care. He has invited a number of these insurance companies to the White House, and they just think they can wait them out and that they don't have to show up. But they're going to suffer the consequences for that. And the president's trying to have these conversations with them. The smart ones have been the pharmaceutical companies who've come in to actually negotiate so they can get some kind of plan that's better for Americans rather than Europeans.
That is the move, because I got to tell you, I think unless we get very unfortunate and there's like a million monkey videos at the midterms, metaphorically, this is the issue. But this is the issue. Well, then he should stop putting them out. But these are the issues. This issue is going to drive the midterms. It's going to be the pocketbook economics issue. So whoever gets to it first and strongest.
This highlights an important political reality. Controversies over messaging can quickly overshadow policy, especially when they involve race. Even if an administration believes it has a strong agenda on healthcare or prescription drug costs, avoidable communications mistakes can dominate headlines for days. That's why crisis management is just as important as policy itself. Political research consistently shows that public trust depends not only on results, but also on how leaders respond when something goes wrong. A quick acknowledgement of a mistake often limits damage, while refusing to take responsibility tends to keep the story alive much longer. That's especially true in today's social media environment, where a single image or clip can spread globally within minutes. Healthcare affordability is absolutely a major issue for voters, but credibility matters when asking people to focus on policy instead of controversy. If an administration wants Americans to pay attention to lower drug prices or insurance reform, it has to avoid creating distractions that shift the conversation elsewhere. Communications failures don't erase policy goals, but they do make it much harder for those goals to break through. There's also a broader lesson here about leadership. Americans generally expect public officials to set a higher standard than everyone else because their words and actions carry enormous influence. When racially sensitive content becomes part of the national conversation, many voters care less about technical explanations and more about whether leaders acknowledge why people were offended. In the end, successful leadership requires both effective policy and disciplined communication. Without both, even worthwhile initiatives risk being buried under controversies that could have been avoided, leaving voters focused on distractions instead of the issues that directly affect their daily lives. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center, are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out Ground News in the description down below.